Hello class, today we're going to go over inside the cell. We are going to watch a brief video that goes over the overview of the cell structure.
Cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells have three things in common, no matter what type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment, cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. The first category is eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, which include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced, complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is prokaryotic cells. They don't have a nucleus or membrane-enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it's not contained within a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are always one-celled or unicellular organisms, such as bacteria.
Okay, there are two types of eukaryotic cells. You have animal and you have plant. Both of them have different types of organelles, and both of them have the same organelles. These are the organelles that only belong to the animal cell, and these are the organelles that only belong to the plant cell, and these are the organelles that can be found in both animal and plant cells. We're going to watch a couple of videos going over different organelles, so stay tuned.
Called a cell membrane, which is a kind of squishy, not rigid plant cell wall, which totally encloses the city and all of its contents. It's also in charge of monitoring what comes in and out of the cell, kind of like the fascist border police. The cell membrane has selective permeability, meaning that it can choose what molecules come in and out of the cells for the most part.
Okay, that was the cell membrane. Now we're going to go over cytoplasm and centrosomes.
A eukaryotic cell is filled with a solution of water and nutrients called cytoplasm, and inside of this cytoplasm is a scaffolding called the cytoskeleton. It's basically just a bunch of protein strands that reinforce the cell. Centrosomes are a special part of this reinforcement. They assemble long microtubules out of proteins that act like steel girders that hold all the city's buildings together.
Okay, next we're going to go over endoplasmic reticulum. Notice there are two different types of endoplasmic reticulum. There is smooth and there is rough.
Plasmic reticulum, or just ER, are organelles that create a network of membranes that carry stuff around the cell. These membranes are phospholipid bilayers, same as in the cell membrane. There are two types of ER. There's the rough and the smooth. Fairly similar, but slightly different shapes, slightly different functions. The rough ER looks all bumpy because it has ribosomes attached to it, and the smooth ER doesn't, so it's a smooth network of tubes. Smooth ER acts as a kind of factory warehouse in the cell city. It contains enzymes that help with the creation of important lipids, which you'll recall.
Next, we're going to go over ribosomes and the Golgi.
Ribosome. Ribosomes can float freely throughout the cytoplasm or be attached to the nuclear envelope, which is where they're spat out from. And their job is to assemble amino acids into polypeptides. As the ribosome builds an amino acid chain, the chain is pushed into the ER. When the protein chain is complete, the ER pinches it off and sends it to the Golgi apparatus. And the city that is the cell, the Golgi is the post office, processing proteins and packaging them up before sending them wherever they need to go.
Next is the nucleus. Nucleus is the most important part of the animal cell.
The nucleus, the beloved leader. The nucleus is a highly specialized organelle that lives in its own double-membraned, high-security compound with its buddy, the nucleolus. And within the cell, the nucleus is in charge in a major way. Because it stores the cell's DNA, it has all the information the cell needs to do its job. So the nucleus makes all the laws for the city and orders all the other organelles around, telling them how and when to grow, what to metabolize, what proteins to synthesize, how and when to divide. The nucleus does all this by using the information blueprinted in its DNA to build proteins that will facilitate a specific job getting done.
Lastly, we're going to talk about the mitochondria.
The mitochondria, the smooth, oblong organelles where the amazing and super important process of respiration takes place. This is where energy is derived from carbohydrates, fats, and other fuels and is converted into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, which is like the main currency that drives life in Eukaryopolis. You can learn more.
Okay, now we're going to go into plant cells. We're going to go over a few organelles that can only be found in the plant cells.
First, plants are thought to have evolved from green algae, which evolved from some more primitive prokaryotes. And something plants inherited from their ancestors was a rigid cell wall surrounding the plasma membrane of each cell. So this cell wall of plants is mainly made out of cellulose and lignin, which are two really tough compounds. Cellulose is by far the most common and easy to find complex carbohydrate in nature, though if you were to include simple carbohydrates as well, glucose would win that one. And this is because, fascinating fact, cellulose is in fact just a chain of glucose molecules.
Yes, in fact, it is just a chain of glucose molecules. Now we're going to go over plastids.
Are plastids, the organelles that plants use to make and store compounds that they need. And you want to know something super interesting about plastids? They and their fellow organelles, the mitochondria that generate energy for the cell, actually started as bacteria that were absorbed into plant cells very early in their evolution. Like maybe some protozoa.
Next, we're going to go over chloroplast. And we will go over chloroplast again when we go over photosynthesis.
Anyway, the most important of the plastids are the chloroplasts, which convert light energy from the sun into sugar and into oxygen, which the plant doesn't need, so it just gets rid of it. All of the green parts.
Lastly, we're going to go over the central vacuole.
The large central vacuole. Plant cells can push water into vacuoles, which provides turgor pressure from inside the cell, which reinforces the already stiff cellulose wall and makes the plant rigid, like a crunchy piece of celery or something. Usually.
Alright students, the assignment for the day is to get a partner, and I want you to compare the cell organelles to the functions of a school personnel and turn it in to me at the end of class.